this week.
It has. All right, well, we're off to another foggy, misty start, in particular along the coastline. No dense fog advisory in place, but visibilities have from time to time been reduced to a quarter mile, and that's where it sits right now in Galveston and Bay City. So give yourself some extra time on the roadways in and around those areas. We have a weak front that's trying to make it and really only bringing some sprinkles to our northern counties at the moment. Temperature-wise, we're still mild, though we are cooling to the north and west with that wind shift taking place. For the most part, we're in the upper 60s to around 70 degrees, 71 along the coastline in Galveston right now. We widen out that view to see kind of where that front is. Most of the rain is displaced off to the north and east. That's where kind of the jet is pumping the moisture to. But as this attempts to advance farther south throughout the course of the day, we could still see some showers through mid-morning. Maybe you're advancing your way down to NRG, right? I'm super excited about this graphic because I love skee ball. Well, in the afternoon, daytime highs peaking in the upper 70s with partly cloudy skies. And as you head into NRG, temperatures in the mid 70s as you're coming out, around 70 in case you're going to be staying in your La Nina. The patterns tend to kind of show a little bit more in the winter time. So La Nina, which we have been in for 3 years, kind of that rare triple dip La Nina, tends to be both warmer and drier for us in the south. But as we flip the switch, we kind of end up in this stormy pattern where we will likely be wetter than normal in an El Nino year. Now, yes, that can help us from a drought perspective, but it can also increase our flooding risk. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword from a drought perspective. Now, when we take a look at what it can or can't do for impacts on the tropics, as Sally mentioned, in a La Nina year, there's typically more activity because we have a warmer Atlantic Ocean that's more fuel for these storms and less wind shear. Wind shear rips those storms apart. It's like an emergency brake when you talk about storm formation, right? In El Nino, it's the reverse. You have a cooler Atlantic, so that's less fuel for storms and more wind shear. So it's going to be harder for these storms to form. That doesn't mean we're not going to see any storms. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll have a slower season. It just works in our favor. It helps us, not hurts us. So less Atlantic activity is likely with El Nino, but as we saw last year, there's a lot of different components that come into play and weird things can happen, but never too early to start preparing for that. We're less than a couple months away now from hurricane season. For today, we do have the possibility for some showers with a weak front, and in the afternoon, clouds will likely be stubborn to kind of mix out north, and that could lead to cooler temperatures there, but near 80 in and around the Houston metro area and farther south where we see some partial clearing. Headed to the rodeo, temperatures in the low 70s, so pretty nice out there this evening. And then in the overnight hours, clouds will fill back in, which could lead to some more patchy fog or mist tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, warm once again because that front goes north as a warm front, so mid 80s and breezy both for Saturday and Sunday. In fact, Sunday morning is going to be a pretty warm start, near 70 degrees, which would put us close to these record lows for Sunday morning. And Sunday afternoon, we may also get close to record highs. It's all going to depend on the timing of this front. If it slows down, we'll have more time to heat up, likely getting into the upper 80s. And if it comes through faster, well, then we'll cool down and likely only ending up in the low 80s. These long-range temperature outlooks have advertised cooler air for weeks now, and it does look like we're still going to get in on some of that, at least closer to average for next weekend. So this is the second weekend of spring break, the last weekend of rodeo. Another front looks to arrive kind of closer to that St. Patrick's Day date, bringing in some upper 60s and lower 70s as we close out the rodeo. In the meantime, we do have a cool down on the way for early next week, at least closer to average for this time of still. Give yourself extra time on the roadways, especially south of town. Dense fog has been kind of patchy and fluctuating. There aren't any advisories in place, but we have seen visibilities pretty low consistently along the coastline and reduced by several miles the farther north you go. So that's likely going to be an issue for a few more hours. Skies are starting to brighten. We got kind of cotton candy skies because we do have quite a bit of cloud cover out there. And also in addition to that fog, kind of some misty conditions under the clouds with a weak front trying but barely making it. 69 on the thermometer right now in the Houston metro. We have gone calm in terms of our winds. So we're starting to kind of see that wind shift. And if we look at where the winds are out of the north, we could say that front's probably right around the I-10 corridor at the moment and could continue to sag a little bit farther south, but it's not going to make it all the way, and it lifts back north as a warm front, which is why we rapidly cool again as we head into the weekend. But for now, a couple of light and spotty sprinkles north of town and a couple of showers through mid-morning are possible. Temperatures are going to go from the 60s to the upper 70s as we make our way through the day. All right, I don't have baby pigs like Melissa, but I do have a baby turkey. He's napping, or she's napping, excuse me. This is Penelope from Dayton, Texas. She hatched backwards and she needed a lot of help, but she's overcome a lot of obstacles. And take a look at her now. 1 year old. This is Penelope. Beautiful, isn't she?
Beautiful. Talk about a glow up.
Wow. Right? Living her best turkey life.
Yes.
I hope you live your best Friday rodeo life with this forecast. At least temperatures on the thermometer will be a bit more reasonable today than they have been.
It looks like she likes watching television.
She said she likes watching Fox 26, but I'm going to tell the owner next time he sends a picture, and we need that in the background.
Yes.
Yeah,
thank you, Penelope. Didn't know we had a turkey fan.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a look at the roadways.
Going to the rodeo for this weekend, which is, of course, the second weekend of the rodeo and the first weekend of spring break. Some kids are off today. Maybe you're headed down there, and if not, of course, over the weekend. If you need help kind of planning, like what's going on, when are the concerts, when does everything open, scan that QR code. It takes you right to our Fox 26 rodeo page. You can at least plan for some cooler air today. Temperatures likely capping in the upper 70s to maybe right around 80 degrees. That 20% chance of rain is in the earlier part of the morning. And then as we head into the weekend, we're warm, we're breezy, we're in the mid 80s once again. But there is a front on the way towards the tail end of the weekend into early next week that's going to bring in some much more pleasant air. Just not going to bring us much in the way of rainfall. I mean, really slim pickings when we talk about precipitation here. Again, those light showers mainly north of town today with that weak front that's just kind of losing steam. And then take a look. You can't even probably make out when the next front is going to arrive because it's really only going to bring us a wind shift and a drop in our temperatures, but it's right in between Sunday and Monday. So not much in the way of allergy relief either, right? Because we don't have really any rain to cleanse out the air. In fact, anytime we get a north wind behind those fronts, it tends to drive up pollen because it brings all of that in from areas in the country off to our north. So still very high levels of tree pollen and medium across the other three categories. What we can at least look forward to, let me give you some good news here, a drop in the humidity. Finally, much more pleasant air on the way for early next week and a drop in the temperatures. So yeah, spring break, and it has felt like spring for weeks, let me tell you, but more like late spring when we talk about what we've been experiencing in the next few days, and this will be at least closer to average, so more reasonable for a few days early next week. Here's the outlook: a couple of showers, and then we're going to see highs peaking near 80 this afternoon. We get into the overnight hours, low 70s for rodeo, and then tomorrow morning maybe some patchy fog and mist in the early part of the day. A warm and breezy afternoon in the 80s, and then we head into Sunday, and we're likely bottoming out near 70, so we are talking very warm for Sunday morning, and that trend continues until our next front. But then we've finally got some cooler air to look